Hey Ash! So Nintendo has just announced that this upcoming Monday, we're finally getting the reveal of who the ARMS character is going to be in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. It's going to be at 7 a.m. again this Monday, so pretty early for us, especially on a Monday. And it'll be a 35-minute presentation with Sakurai in which they're going to focus exclusively on the ARMS character. So it sounds like there probably won't be any teasers or anything else. It's purely going to be ARMS. So let's discuss this real quick. Now, I already know you, John, I think Derek, had a full discussion already with your thoughts. But I wasn't on it, and I want to get in on this hype train too, because I was a huge fan of ARMS, so I really wanted to discuss who we think it might be. But before we get to my thoughts on it, Ash, what are your general expectations and thoughts on this event, and including the timing? Because Monday is a bit of an odd time. I think normally they're usually Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday for, if not just the Sakurai events, Nintendo in general. Right. So Monday at 7 a.m. is a little unusual and possibly a bit rough.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a long Monday. But I mean, if there's anything that can get me out of bed at 6:30 a.m. on a Monday, it's a new Smash character.
There you go.
So,
that's right.
It's going to be a long weekend. I'm excited. ARMS definitely deserves the representation given how well it's sold. And, whatever. It's a new Smash character. Regardless of where it comes from, I'm going to be excited to some degree. So, the timing's weird, for sure, though. Monday, as you said, it's usually later in the week. Maybe it's because they just want to avoid the end of the month. I don't know. I mean, they said June 2020. I don't know why they'd care, necessarily,
right.
if it's a little later in the month. But, maybe they just want to get it out of the way and have us enjoy this character for the whole week. I assume that they're probably going to drop this character on the same day. Or maybe, since it's Monday, maybe it'll be Tuesday or Wednesday that they drop the character.
I mean, as a fan, I would love it the same day. As one covering it, I would love it for it to be a little bit later in the week. So
yeah, exactly.
Is it just me, or is the energy a little bit different going into this one? Because we know what game it's from, and I feel like for me, I love that's ARMS. I'm excited to find out who it is. But I also feel like it takes a lot of steam out of the announcement, a lot of steam out of the sales of its announcement. I'm like, know, it's coming. We already know what small box they're working within now. And while it'll be awesome to have that fighter, I'm just not that excited going into this, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. I agree. I mean, I think, given that we know the game it's from, and unfortunately, as well as ARMS sold, I just don't think there's a lot of hype for the game anymore in 2020. And again, I do think ARMS deserves a rep.
Absolutely.
But I just think, the general tenor of the conversation I've seen online, at least, is like, hell yeah, new Smash character, ARMS, But, there are the ARMS fans out there like yourself, and I enjoyed it at least. And, as I've said in previous discussions about this and elsewhere on social media, I would be so hyped for Twintel.
Twintel would be
really
great.
Hope it's Twintel.
Yeah.
She's my number one pick from that game. By far, I'd be happy with Min Min too. She's my number 2 pick, but I'm really pulling for Twintel, and that would get me. Even though I'm not super hyped going into the announcement, if it is Twintel and to a lesser extent Min Min, I'm gonna be riding high after going out of the announcement. So we'll see.
Yeah, we will see, and that's what's still gonna be fun about this. This is a different type of reveal. Where we know what spectrum they're working within. We just don't know specifically who. However, Ash, I've put together about a series of, a dozen notes here that I think can help us narrow it down. I'm sure you guys probably covered some of this in your own discussion, but let me run you through who I think it might be. And let me see if you follow my logic here and see if this makes sense. Okay.
All right.
First up, based on the timing, I predict the fact that they're getting it out here, they haven't delayed this announcement, it's coming ASAP, I think probably means it's not going to be bark and bite. The timing, timing would be great on that. So I think they probably would have delayed this announcement. It had to have been bark and bite. Also,
I think you're right.
The fact that it would have had an ice climber like mechanic with a helper, as cool as that would be, it's redundant, and I don't think they need that for a character that's already going to be playing as differently, presumably, as an ARMS character would be. Next up.
Well, and the presentation's like 35 minutes, so that's also that's a long presentation. Very, very Sakurai, but I agree. I'm totally following you here.
Right. Next up. It can't be Springman. It can't be Springman.
I hope not.
They wouldn't have announced, they wouldn't be teasing, dragging this out if it was going to be the mascot character. Springman is on the box. He's boring. And he's basically just a Lil Mac. He's the ARMS version of Lil Mac.
Yeah.
No, I say he's boring relative to the cast. I think If
Right.
Springman were the only character in this game, it'd be fine. He's not,
Sure.
and there's a much more eclectic
But he's also
cast.
an assist trophy already, too.
Good point. Exactly.
We already have him as an assist trophy. Now, that would, as much as I don't want it to be Springman, that would be an interesting implication if it is Springman, only because that means assist trophies can be promoted,
Right.
technically. And that would be the first time that's ever happened,
And-
except for Little Nick.
And I think John would argue that that doesn't preclude any character from appearing, but I agree.
Right.
When you already have a whole roster you can use, why go with the one you already have represented in the game in some way?
Exactly. Like, what's the point?
Next up, so it's only 20%, if the stats I found are correct, and it sounds right, only 20% of the Smash Bros. Cast is female. 33% if you count the alt characters. So,
Right.
while that might lead you to think that this character would also be male, just going by percentages, I think they need to switch it up, especially based on the fact that 100% of the previous DLC was male, minus Kazooie, but,
Yeah.
I think Banjo kind of got the focus on that. So, yeah, I'm leaning toward, so I'm thinking it has to be female, especially with a cast as unique as ARMS. Lean into what made that game so special. I think that was its eclectic cast.
The only thing I'd say to that point is that Sakurai has not seemed to really show that he necessarily cares about that kind of representation in the past. I wish he did,
Right.
but I just don't necessarily think that is a deciding factor for
I don't
him.
think it's
especially...
I don't think it's a deciding factor, but when you have what's
Yeah.
basically an ensemble in this case, where besides
Right.
the box characters, no character is really elevated above another, I think that's what it really does make sense to lean into, where
Right.
you really can focus on with more different characters or unique characters.
And that's one of the reasons I want Twintel so much, is she'd be the first black woman in the
Right,
Smash roster, which
exactly.
would be a really cool thing.
That would be
Yeah.
really cool. I'm right there with you.
Yeah. Especially, as you said earlier, given current events, I mean, related to Bite and Bark.
Yeah, that's
I
the
think
exact
it would be
opposite.
really
Yeah,
cool
that'd be perfect
timing.
perfect counter.
Yeah.
So at this point, we're down to Ribbon Girl, Min Min, Mechanica, Twintel, or Dr. Coil, along with Lollipop. Now, I don't think it's going to be Ribbon Girl, because she's also a box character,
Yeah.
and she's basically the female Springman. I mean, she's fine. She's not particularly exciting.
Yeah. Well, and also her and Springman are both already Mii costumes, which that doesn't necessarily disclude them, but it makes them even less interesting picks.
Exactly. I had that here as well. It's a great point.
Yeah.
So that leaves us now with Min Min, Mechanica, Twintel, and Lollipop. I don't think they're going to have a DLC character, as much as I would love it to be Lollipop.
agree.
And as fitting as it might be, given this is also a DLC character, they're going to focus on one of
Yeah.
the original cast. So Lollipop's
Well,
out.
and Lollipop is like, as much as I love her design, I don't feel like she ever had that much.
She didn't.
That much.
It's pretty.
Yeah, like
by-
popularity behind her.
By
Yeah.
that point, I think ARMS momentum was already waning, unfortunately.
Right.
So yeah, I think it already appeals to a segment of what's already a smaller user base for ARMS compared to some other games.
Right.
Next, so it says now you're left with Min Min, Mechanica, Twintel. I don't think it's going to be Mechanica. I think they're going to focus on a more agile character. Mechanica
Right.
definitely wasn't. So it leaves us with purely Min Min and Twintel, which I think is an amazing two to be stuck between, assuming
I
my
agree.
logic adds up so far. But there's one final point here, Ash, and that's the fact that Min Min won the ARMS Party Crash Bash.
Exactly.
I think showing that she's one of the more popular characters. I think Twintel is too, but I think between the two, Min Min might take it, and I think that might be the deciding factor here. So Ash, what do you think about my list here, about my data points for who it could be?
I think you're really onto it. That's a lot of what we covered in the previous discussion, is that we thought that, in general, Min Min and Twintel have emerged as by far the most popular ARMS characters.
Right.
It's just not even close, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But on top of that, Min Min won the ARMS Party Crash Bash. So I really do think it has to be one of those two. And as you said, what a great two characters to be stuck between. However, as I did point out earlier, though, Sakurai doesn't necessarily care about trends and representation
for
necessarily, and he breaks whatever rules we think there are. He breaks them all the time. So
Absolutely.
doesn't necessarily have to be them. And he may be thinking, people are going to think it's going to be one of them. Well, I'm going to do Misango,
Right.
and it's going to be Misango. Like, what the hell? That would be out of nowhere.
That would be.
Or Ninjara or something. But I do think that logic dictates that we're looking at either Min Min or Twintel, and I think either one of those would be an awesome inclusion.
Absolutely, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
So what do you think we might get into? How do you think the reveal might go? How do you think they can? Do you think they might, build up to who it actually is, or what do you think is going to happen here?
Well, I mean, it's a 35-minute presentation, so that tells me that this character is going to be fairly, in depth in terms of it's going to have some weird mechanics, mechanicas. No, I'm kidding, but weird mechanics, and it seems like there's a lot to cover here. So I feel like they're probably going to want to go right into it. I don't know why there'd be a 35-minute presentation if they're going to take time to build up to this character review.
Well, by that I just meant, do you think there'll be like a little intro sequence, like a minute or two long, in which we don't fully know who it is yet?
It's hard to... Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know if we'll know the second this thing starts. I don't know if it'll begin with that.
Here's what I'm kind of picturing. I think what might be kind of fun is if you just have like a bracket, like a tournament-style bracket, and you see all the characters laid out, and you see them, each battling. You can see each in their own set battling each other. You can almost use the party. Actually, no, we'll stick with the tournament style. And then as the trailer goes, or as we go on, you can see who wins each match as they move up until you're up to the final two, perhaps being Min Min and Twin Tail. You see an actual match engage, where they're engaged with each other.
That would be cool.
And you see one just throw out the other, and that's when we're left with, the actual victor, who is our ARMS character in Smash. Wouldn't that be a pretty fun way of doing it, I think?
That would be, and it would also kind of dodge the issue of I don't think it's going to be some super fancy CG trailer or anything.
Right? No, exactly.
This feels like there's a little less hype behind it. Plus the fact with the pandemic going on, everybody's working from home.
Right.
I think this is probably already challenging for them to throw together anyway. Given current circumstances.
Exactly. So regardless of who it actually is, Min Min, how do we think this character will actually play? Which I realize might be slightly character dependent, but they all play pretty similarly. What do we think for this? Because the whole idea of ARMS is that they have this extremely long reach with their punches and their grabs. And how do you translate that into Smash Brothers? How do you make this character work in a fast-paced fighting game?
Well, I think one of the things that I mentioned during our previous discussion about this was that I feel like maybe their down special might cycle out their arms, right? Because in ARMS, the actual game, you can enter battle with 3 different arms.
Right.
And so I feel like their down special might be rooted in that mechanic. Like, there's the DLC characters usually have some weird mechanic that sets them apart from the main roster, right? Yeah. So I feel like we're looking at maybe versatility in this character. Okay. Down special cycles between 3 different arms. Maybe one of them's long range, one of them's close up, one of them is maybe defense oriented. Hopefully not a counter, because so many characters already have counters as their down special. But that's what I'm thinking, is maybe we've got access to multiple specials by cycling out arms. Okay. And maybe there's a cooldown period on them, who knows?
That's an interesting idea. I feel like that might overly complicate the character, and the fact that the characters can't swap arms in real time. They had to do it before a match. I wonder that might make it so that can't work, so that wouldn't work here. So I'm thinking for me, I'm thinking they might go a little bit simpler on this. But I had the same thoughts back when they announced Inkling. It was like, maybe you can choose a loadout, and that's not what happened at all.
Sure.
They rolled everything into the main character. So here's what I'm kind of expecting. I think your primary attacks I think they will have like a shorter range by ARM standards, where they'll be quicker, shorter jabs, but still longer than most characters. They have a longer reach, but you'll still have like a quick 2 or 3 punch if you tap A a lot. I think the specials are really going to be where this character comes alive. And this is where it gets difficult, though, because literally everything these characters can do are based around their arms and their arm length. So how do you make that work? So the only thing I'm picturing is that, there's 2 thoughts. One, if they want to incorporate your equipping idea, maybe they can make it so there's different directionals are how you select which arms types you want to use. What I'm thinking they may do is they may go simpler on this, where the direction you choose simply dictates which arms you shoot them out at distance. So kind of like a prompt, I think Neutral B is it, where he can go into his base or
his pot. That's his down special.
Down special, thank you, and then shoot out. I'm kind of picturing that for every direction though, where if you choose up, your arms shoot up.
Yeah.
Choose if you choose if you're doing forward smash forward special, they go forward. Neutral would be arms extended out to both sides, and the down special would be down if you're in the air. Don't know how that would quite work if you're on the ground. Maybe you could shoot yourself up, which would be amazing. You punch the ground, you launch upward.
That would be interesting.
Which could be really interesting.
I could see that being one of the throws, maybe. Like maybe a down throw could look something like that. So are you thinking, though, that whatever you do, though, the properties of these arms are going to be the same, that we're not going to see the different arms?
Right.
Yeah.
They'll be pretty much
like
the
the dragon
same.
chakram.
Actually, so I have two thoughts. One key thing about ARMS, two key things about ARMS is you had independent control of them, and as part of that, you could steer them. So what I wonder they might do is if you tap each special once, one arm goes out. Tap it again, the second arm goes out, and you can steer those arms as you're shooting them out. The range will be limited. You can't it won't be like a Snake's missiles, for instance, but you can.
I was going to say,
direct where
maybe
they go.
it's like Nikita launcher. So I would assume that the character would have to be stationary while this is happening.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess kind of like a physical Nikita launcher, but not with the same range.
And to that point, they were also stationary largely in ARMS as well when you were punching. So it kind of makes sense thematically. But to add on to all this, Ash, as to bring up something you mentioned, especially if we're going with Min Min, which I've been basing this on, Min Min had she had something special, and that was one of her arms could turn into a dragon arm if she fully charged up her meter. And the way you charge the meters in the game was by dashing, I think dodging, and by jumping, I believe, or being in the air. And I think that this could be yet another meter-based character where you can fill up that meter, then your arm permanently turns into that dragon arm, at least for the duration of your stock, at which point you then have a projectile on you in addition to your arm. So that could really change things up, where you're then able to aim a laser beam around the arena, giving you even longer range and a quicker attack.
Right. I mean, that's always possible. We also have to consider her final smash as well, though. So that sounds like something that could work for a final smash, although there are so many other possibilities. I feel like even for a final smash, the standard rush attack from ARMS might be a little boring. So, I mean, I feel like that might be the obvious thing to go with, so it might be a little boring, and there are also other things you can go with, like headlock. So I feel like you're onto something there, possibly, where the laser doesn't necessarily have to be the final smash. It could just be what you're describing.
Right.
There are so many different possibilities here. And again, the fact that it's 35 minutes tells me there's some sort of weird thing going on here that Sakurai wants to take his time to explain.
Well, I think too, grabs are going to be a huge part of this character, and I wonder if this might be the part you have the most control of. Maybe a little bit similar to Snake's Nikita missile, as I mentioned, where you will have just the most in-depth control of both of these arms. They will have to travel together for this move, and this is where you will have the longest distance grab in the game.
I was gonna say, this would be a long distance grab, and probably that might be one of their, one of the things that sets them apart is that they can grab from so far away. And certain characters have other tether grabs, like Samus, for example, and now Luigi. But I feel like this would really set this character apart, because we've seen in ARMS itself, you can grab someone from across the arena, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
So that would be, but of course that would leave you wide open too, I think.
Right.
So I see this character as having long vulnerability windows. I see them being kind of stationary, long range attacks, and I think they'll have some close range options too. But I think them being stationary and vulnerable is going to be a big part of this character in terms of how you're going to have to play around that.
Right. Smash attacks, I think, will still be relatively short range as well, just by the nature of smash attacks. But
do you think they'll be shorter range than something like the longest ranges in the game already, like Simon, Richter, or Mega Man? Not
that short range. I think we may see something comparable to them, but I don't think we'll see anything much longer than that reach.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I think it's possible that they could possibly be even shorter range than that. I think the specials might be where the arm length really comes into play. So, getting back to the final smash, I kind of agree with you in that what's it called, the flurry attack you have.
I think it's called the flurry attack or the rush attack. I can't remember.
It might be a little bit dull, but I would prefer having the dragon arm reserved for an actual gameplay mechanic in game, rather than a move that is mostly just a cutscene, right? I mean, it may not be a cutscene, but I think it'd be more interesting to have it as having a dragon arm incorporated in actual gameplay. But
I agree.
But we'll see. I mean, they can go any way in this. Okay, anything else about the actual mechanics of the character we haven't touched on yet for how this may work?
I think we pretty much. I mean, we could go into every special, but that would make for a
super
long
I kind of did
so.
Though. Assuming they go with my directional idea, where the direction you press a special indicate, is what dictates what direction the arms go in.
Right. So. I'm still gonna hold fast to my idea that down B might cycle through 3 different arms I don't think you're gonna be able to select from more than that going into battle. Don't get me wrong. I just think that maybe there are going to be 3 different arms you can cycle between for different situations.
Right.
But we'll see. Yeah. I mean, who knows?
We will see. I myself am so excited just to be grabbing people, hopefully, from across the arena. I don't know, that really appeals to me. That just seems really fun, having like basically what could be the ability to home in with your grab attacks or grabs, which we haven't seen anything of this nature before. So again, you touched on earlier, the tethers are the closest we've seen, and it is possible this will just be a simple tether too. Maybe you won't have any control over it, but I really hope you do. I really hope they just lean into what makes arms. So
same.
And I think they will. And I think what excites me too is I said before, I feel like the DLC characters is where they've really kind of almost shown like a next generation of Smash character development, where they lean into these characters in a way that even most of the core cast haven't. Like, they all feel even more unique by their standards, and that's what really makes ARMS a fun inclusion. Is I think we're going to see.
Well, that's what. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Hero's command spells and Terry's, super specials and his command inputs, and buy list different weapons depending on which direction you are, which directional smash attack you're doing. Each of these characters has something that really sets them apart from the main cast, or at least most of them. You could argue that Banjo-Kazooie don't, because Wonder Wing is the main thing that sets them apart.
Right.
But in general, there's usually some weird mechanic that really makes these DLC characters shine, and so I think that there's the idea, as you said, of having that connected to an ARMS character is really exciting. And that's to say nothing of the stage we're going to get. We haven't really covered the stage.
I actually didn't think about that, right.
Yeah. So if it's Min, do you think that means it necessarily has to be Ramen Bowl, or could it be a combination, like we get Min and we get Ribbon Ring or something, or along those lines?
Yeah, the thing is, Min stage. God, Min stage wouldn't even work that well for a Smash.
Yeah,
it's just a bowl.
I kind of I agree. I actually kind of feel like, even though I don't want Ribbon Girl herself, I actually really like the idea of Ribbon Ring as a stage.
Yeah.
Not only because I like the aesthetics of it, but the shifting and the rising platforms. I think that could make for some interesting hazards.
Yeah. I just wonder if it might be a little bit generic, since we already have a couple of rings in the game.
Could be.
What I think would be awesome. Well, so I guess if we do get Twin Tail, her stage would be great. Because there's already room to play with that to make it work in a Smash setting, and that will look amazing.
Right.
Having like this film backdrop.
That would be really cool.
You could bounce off cars and whatnot.
That would be,
But what I hope they do is they actually have it be a transforming stage where you go between all these different ARMS arenas.
Okay,
and
that'd be nice.
That'd be fun. You could get Mins in there along with the more interesting ones. Because while Min works for ARMS, it's not going to work for Smash. I don't think it'd just be a really dull stage. Yeah.
I think I can't remember. I think it's called the DNA Lab, but Helix's stage.
Oh God!
In ARMS itself, you have those DNA chemical tanks that kind of block you, and you have to fight around them. That could be really cool.
It could almost be like Snick's stage, where the canisters act as barriers until you break through them, creating a bit more of a play area. So that'd be super fun. Yeah,
I think so too.
So I think if they go with the transforming stage idea, that'd be the best possible thing. All right, Ash.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you might expect to see here? I know they said what was Sakurai's exact wording, or Nintendo's exact wording, that it would just focus on the ARMS character.
Yeah, or there would be no new character.
Okay, no new character announcements. So,
I think something.
Do you think that precludes getting possible Mii costumes?
No, I don't. I think we've gotten a round of Mii costumes with each new DLC character, as well as new music. So we're going to get, a nice selection of music from ARMS, and then perhaps we'll get a few Mii Fighter costumes, and then like the one big Mii Fighter costume. We've had this indie trend lately, right? Where we got Sans from Undertale along with Megalovania, and then we had Cuphead with Floral Fury, I think the song is called. So I could see that trend continuing, maybe with Hollow Knight, like maybe just the Knight costume, and have a track from that game. Celeste, I would love Madeline. Get Madeline in there with a Celeste tune.
Oh,
that would be awesome.
The music would be so good too. The music for that would be fantastic. So
I'd also love to see, even though he's already an assist trophy, I'd love to see Shovel Knight get in with the Shovel Knight song. Like, that would be hype for me, I think. So I feel like I could see that trend continuing.
Shovel Knight's a really good one. That I would say that's probably the most likely of the ones you mentioned to get in, especially with the fact that Shovel Knight's already an assist trophy though.
Exactly, that's what I was saying. So I'm not saying it's necessarily likely, but Shovel Knight does have a lot of love, and that's a high, that's almost comparable to Undertale in terms of indie power, or Shantae. Shantae just got a new game, so that would be cool too.
Well, speaking of indie power, I'm gonna go with an Untitled Goose Game, where you just you have like a goose hat, and the music can just be the weird eclectic mix they had in the games. That maybe it could even be a dynamic track that matches what you're actually doing during the Smash match.
I'm super into that idea.
Right?
I love it.
Would that be great?
Yeah.
All right, Ash. I know we're about out of time here. Any final thoughts about the ARMS character that we haven't got out there yet?
No, I think I'm really pulling for Twintel. I so hope it's her, but even if it isn't, I know that Sakurai has been working super hard on this character for everybody, and whoever it is going to be super exciting, I think, except for Ribbon Girl or Springman. But yeah, come on, I'm really pulling for Twintel.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm hoping for both. I'm hoping equally for both Twintel and Min Min.
Sure.
And I am leaning toward it slightly being Min Min for.
I think so. Yeah, my prediction I'll say is Min Min. But I want Twintel. Second, I'm almost as excited for Min Min, but I am predicting Min Min.
Right, got it. Yeah, so that's what's interesting about this one is we're going in knowing which game it'll be from, but we have no idea how they're going to play and who specifically it's going to be. So that is kind of a different perspective going in, which is fun to explore at a level we haven't been able to quite before. Because we've touched on how each character will play, but we've never spent that much time on it because we've never needed to, because we never knew who it was going to be or what game they were going to be from. So definitely interesting. I'm definitely excited to see who it ends up being and how they're going to play. And yeah, I can't wait to actually get our hands on them. So. Or our arms on them, I suppose.
7 a.m. Monday.
Yep, that's it. Oh my God, we'll be there. Yeah, maybe we'll live stream it. We'll see. But yeah,
could be fun.
With that, we're done here. So thank you, Ash, for discussing this with me, and thank you all for watching. By the way, if you like this webcam format, let us know what you thought in the comments below. We're considering doing more of it in the future, so let us know your thoughts if we should do this or go back to just gameplay. And yeah, with that, we're done. You have to click subscribe if you want more from us on ARMS coming up on Monday at 7 a.m. We'll catch you then. Bye, everyone.